Live from the News Hub here in Accra, I am Isa Moni. This is News 360.
My name is Solis Rose Corte, and coming up in the next 60 minutes.
360 Headlines is brought to you by...
And tonight, Information Minister swerves questions on the TV license fee collection at a media encounter.
Residents and motorists in the Klagon Ashaiman Road threaten to demonstrate if the road is not rehabilitated.
In sports, Ghana's Isaac the Royal Storm Dogbe fights Mexican for the vacant interim £122 world title in Accra tonight.
And on the international front tonight, U.S. President Donald Trump describes himself as a very stable genius in response to the Fire and Fury Arthur. These and more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Now let's start off with our first story, and in less than 24 hours after blaming the GBC boss for TV license brouhaha, Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has backed down on his words. Now he declined comments from Peter Kwawa Dato on the matter, saying the decision by the National Media Commission should be final.
A report in Ghana Crusader quoted the Information Minister Mustafa Hamid as blaming the Director General of Ghana Television, Dr. Kwame Akufo-Addo, for causing public uproar in an attempt to prosecute defaulters of TV license. The minister in the report alleged that Dr. Kwame Akufo-Addo single-handedly took the decision to request the setting up of courts to prosecute those who have defaulted in payment of their TV license without informing other stakeholders.
You know, there are so many issues, in my view, that need resolution and clarity about, before we even then begin to even contemplate whether we even want to establish a court or not. And I pointed that out clearly to the Director General of GBC. Because the power of prosecution is vested in the Attorney General. And so you cannot purport to be setting up courts to prosecute people without recourse to the Attorney General. The Attorney General's office didn't know anything about this matter. National Media Commission didn't know. GBC Board didn't know. The Ministry of Information didn't know. The Director General of GBC, on his own, at the blind side of everybody, writes to the Secretary of Judicial Service or whatever, and says that they should set up the court. That letter was then leaked into the public space. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know sitting here that any courts have been established.
But at the meeting with the media on Friday, the Information Minister made a sharp U-turn when pressed to answer questions on the issue.
I read a message that you spoke about the GBC TV license.
I hope this will be the last, so we don't, because it's meant to be social.
And accuse the GBC of unilaterally taking a decision to do this. Really, is it your statement? And what do you intend to do going forward?
I think I won't answer this question. The NMC has met with GBC. They are responsible for GBC. They have issued their statement. I think we should go by that one.
The establishment of the Special TV License Court by Chief Justice Sophia Akufu to sanction defaulters has received public backlash, with many vowing to resist its implementation.
Right, you're on News 360, and let's move away from the TV license issues and then focus on the Fourth Republic. January 7 marks exactly 25 years of governance under Ghana's Fourth Republic. In the following report, we take a trip through Ghana's 25 years down the line.
Described as the longest republic without any military intervention, this is the first time in the history of the country that it has survived 25 years as a republic. The First Republic was truncated after 6 years. The Second Republic survived for only 24 months. After 28 months, the Third Republic was overthrown and then followed by over a decade of military rule. In 1992, the Fourth Republic was ushered in with Jerry John Rawlings as president on the ticket of the National Democratic Congress (NDC).
That I will be faithful
and
true
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God.
In our constitution, we provided that 5%, at least 5% of the total revenue of this country must be put into a fund that is called the District Assembly Common Fund for only the development of this country. So after 1993, this country has experienced a lot of development across the length and breadth of this country. In every district that you visit today, you'll find modern school buildings, modern hospitals, modern roads, and all kinds of infrastructure.
Described by many as the Republic of the Johns, the Fourth Republic has had 4 constitutionally elected presidents who all had John as their Christian names: Jerry John Rawlings, John Agyekum Kufuor, John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory, and most recently John Dramani Mahama. Under the Fourth Republican journey, which began with the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, Ghana has practiced multi-party democracy for 25 uninterrupted years. The 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, that came into effect on January 7, 1993, provides the basic charter for the country's 4th attempt at Republican democratic government since independence in 1957. It declares Ghana to be a unitary republic with sovereignty residing in the Ghanaian people. The Constitution reflects the lessons drawn from the abrogated constitutions of 1957, 1960, 1969 and 1979, and it incorporates provisions and institutions drawn from British and United States constitutional model.
In 1992, the leadership of this country at the time, that is the PNDC, decided to involve all manner of persons in making a constitution to drive us into the democratic dispensation. Butchers were invited to participate in the consultative assembly. Market women were invited. Farmers were invited. Lawyers were invited. All kinds of professionals were invited to participate in the constitution, in the making of the constitution. So before the adoption of the constitution, a referendum took place in this country. The outcome of the referendum was a yes. It is the longest period that the people of this country have enjoyed democracy. It should tell you that involving the people in decision making is very key.
Going through 25 years of democratic practice where governments have smoothly transferred power from one administration to another, this is rare in African politics, where elections are seen as a make or break affair.
Ghana has every reason to celebrate that we have an enduring modern democratic practice, a viable parliament. What parliament needs to do is to improve upon its oversight. You see, for instance, question time for ministers is largely a weapon or tool used by the minority of political opposition. So how do you achieve oversight when it's a one-sided thing? And it's been so since 1993. The NDC and the MPP is as guilty.
The first regime of the Fourth Republic saw the reign of former President Jerry John Rawlings, whose leadership transitioned from a military government to a constitutional rule in response to demands for a more democratic process. After 2 terms in office, barred by the Constitution from standing in any election, Rawlings endorsed his vice president, late Professor John Atta Mills, as presidential candidate in 2000. Other leaders under the Fourth Republic are former President John Agyekum Kufuor, late Professor John Evans Atta Mills, and former President John Dramani Mahama. Current President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is the 5th president, having won elections in December 2016.
Right, so how have our democratic institutions fared? And on the phone to help us assess the independence of institutions under 25 years of the Fourth Republic is a senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Evans Aggrey Darko. Doc, good evening and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you and good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so straight to the point, have we allowed our democratic institutions set up under the Fourth Republican Constitution to work?
Thank you very much. That's a very difficult question. But you know that institutions, if indeed we allow the institutions to work, that is how we will be able to nurture our democracy. Democracy, as you know, it's not an event. It's a process. And therefore, you would expect that human beings, you and I, will die, whether we like it or not. We will die one day. But institutions, if they are enduring, will really give some meaning to the things that you and I desire. And that is what we will demand from our institutions. Yes, we've been able to craft institutions for ourselves. The institutions have, by and large, been able to deal with some of the key fundamental issues. We still have some deficits that we need to deal with. But we haven't fared too badly. There has been some incremental progress down the line. And that is why for the past 25 years, we're seeing some consistent attempt to consolidate democratic principles.
Right,
so we are on the track, yes.
Yeah, we can give examples of what has been happening, for example, at the Bank of Ghana recently. You know, tenure of office for the governors have not been allowed to run their normal course. We see speedy changes in the position of the IGP and the CDS and a lot more, and even the problems at the Electoral Commission of late. I mean, how does this affect our governance system?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, institutions are nothing but processes, laws, regimes, processes, rules, regulations that really regulate the affairs of human beings. And if you go back to the writings of somebody like Aristotle, he will tell you that no matter how good a man is, he cannot be as good as a good law, because he thinks that the laws have the quality of impersonality. So when the institutions work, they give meaning to something that really will serve everybody's interest. So that is why the premise of our 1992 Constitution envisioned a system that will be all-encompassing. And so they recommended under the directive principles of state policy that we need to have what they call institutional building and institutional reforms and so on, institutional development. Because that is the way to go. Yes, you have alluded to you've cited some examples of some will say infractions, tenures that have not been allowed to run, the fact that the executive has a preponderance of influence when it comes to the appointment of some key institutions within the among others. We are operating a unitary state, and so we would expect that the president will wield some significant influence as far as the direction of the state must go. But we also will expect that you and I will exhibit high level of professionalism wherever you find ourselves. So if we allow partisanship, for instance, to seep into the way we conduct our business, then we should expect that whenever there is a change of government, certainly certain changes will have to be expected. That is so at the top level, at the highest echelon of administration of the state, you see some synergy between politics and administration. That is what we are seeing. And unfortunately for us, we have not been able to deal with excessive partisanship. And that is what is affecting some of the things that we do. And I believe that these are transitional issues. For me, as a rational actor, institutionalist, I think that these are transitional issues. With time, when you and I decide that, look, even though I support NDC or MPP, if the government in power is not the government that I subscribe to, I should be able to do my work with good grace.
Right.
Then you give whoever the political leader, is that look, this person would certainly prosecute his agenda, irrespective of who is in power. Then we are able to divorce politics from administration. But for now, the two are almost like symbiotic. They operate in a symbiotic relationship, unfortunately.
Doc, in spite of what we see as infractions, in the work of some state institutions, in your mind, do you think Parliament and, for example, the judiciary have been able to serve as checks and balances in order to, sustain our governance system?
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that this is somebody. I'm not close to my telly yet. But it's somebody, if he's the one. But what do you need?
Yes, I am, sir.
Yes. You see, when the Americans were crafting their constitution, they thought that somebody like Baron de Montesquieu, who is the original crafter of the separation of powers, they saw him as an oracle which has to be consulted. For them, they argue that, look, when you vest legislative, executive, and judicial powers in one person, one conclusion was certain, use of power. And therefore, they thought that, look, the best way to go is to separate those functions, separate those powers, so that you cannot have, then when you separate those powers, then you can have checks and balances, and then you build what in their mind they thought about what they called countervailing forces. So if you read the Federalist Papers, for instance, and you go to the Federalist 51, which was crafted by James Madison. I think Madison was the second president of it. So the Madison argued in the Federalist 51 that, look, ambition must counteract ambition. Like almost saying that setting a thief to catch a thief. Like we need to have powers that will countervail the other powers of the executive all over the world. You know that the executive, if you are not careful, will wield a preponderance of influence that all of us will almost be like slaves. So what do? You need a very strong parliament. The good news is that for the past 16 years of our Republican, our independent status, you realize that parliament is stronger now than ever before. Even though we still think that we live in a subservient, parliament is still a subservient institution. We still have the tyranny of the majority, which Alexis de Tocqueville, complain about. We still have the executive also sitting in parliament because the speaker is the agent of the president. The majority leader is the president. Even where you sit in parliament is determined by the executive. Because if you were a minister, you come forward. If you are not a minister, you go back. So even your parliamentary promotion is determined by the executive. So we are not promoting a professional legislative institution a la the senatorial system that we have in the U.S. So that is a problem. Of course, you also would need a legislature that will be firing on all cylinders. Because for me, I think that legislatures, the judges, among others, are more or less like God on earth.
Right.
So if we are all in trouble, that is where we run to. And therefore, they must exhibit high level of objectivity. Even if the objectivity is a veneer, like, it's like a veil of objectivity. It's good because by and large, that is where we will run to. But if you look at the trajectories over the years, especially under the Fourth Republic, we've not fared badly. Opposition parties have even won major cases in court. Major cases in the Supreme Court, among others, the highest court of the land. What it means is that if you, all things being equal, if you have a winnable case, then there's a tendency that you are going to win. And that is what will give meaning to the concept of democratic principle that you and I will look at. Like, the laws must really serve the interests of the ordinary Ghanaian and so on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aggrey Idako. We are grateful for your time. I'm sure this is a very interesting input you are making, and you have really helped our discussion tonight. We're grateful. Aggrey Idako is worked at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Aggrey Idako, and he was, of course, telling us about Ghana's democratic institutions 25 years on are they supporting our democracy?
All right, let's move on to some other stories. And the Inspector General of Police, David Asante Apietu, has ordered officers across the country to cease impounding vehicles with DV and DP number plates at night. According to an internal memo issued to all commanders, the IGP contends the road traffic regulations do not authorize such arrests.
Sections 45 to 50 of the Road Traffic Act, Act 683/2004, as well as Regulations 23 and 24 of the Road Traffic Regulation 2012 LI 2180 are clear on the use of DV and DP number plates. A motor vehicle which is not being used on that road commits an offence and is liable on a summary conviction to a fine of not less than 500 penalty units and not exceeding 1,000 penalty units, or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, or to both. Acting on the directive of road traffic regulations, the police MTTD has for many years been checking the abuse of trade plates in the country. However, the Inspector General of Police, David Asante Apietu, earlier this week directed with immediate effect an end to arrest of motorists with trade license plates. According to the directive, the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. is no longer a crime and therefore unlawful for officers to impound vehicles with such number plates and arrest their drivers. The IGP warned that any officer found to have flouted the directive will be sanctioned.
Right, you're watching News 360. Things have changed so fast, but there are a lot of questions to ask the police. We are grateful that this evening ACP David Eklu, as the Director General of the Public Affairs Ghana Police Service, has agreed to speak to us. He is right here in the studio. Chief, how do I address you properly? Afishapa.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, driving DV or DP number plates after 6 p.m. Was an offense. We have just heard, from our bulletin this evening, that it has changed. What has changed and why?
Yes, what has changed is that the IGP, as you said, as you heard in the news, has directed that the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the night, that's for the police, does not infringe on any of the road traffic regulations. So police officers should stop restricting the movements or arresting people who use the DV plates because of time.
So, what was the law that the police was using to stop people from?
Yes.
Was there any law in a way?
In the statement that we issued, the release that we issued, there had been several complaints from users of DP and DV plates numbers that police have been restricting their movement, especially in the night. And we checked our records, and it shows that in 2007, there was a police order asking police officers to restrict the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. because of some security reasons. But when the complaints kept coming, we wrote to the DVLA, who are the authorized agents to issue DP plates. And when they checked, they realized that that order is no longer valid because it is in conflict with the current road traffic regulation 21782 of 2012. That did not indicate the time of usage of DP or vehicles bearing DP or DP plates, or what we call trade license.
So what is replacing that right now? Does it mean people are free to drive unlicensed cars, uninsured cars, anytime, any day in the night?
For now, the law says that you can drive these vehicles on the road under certain conditions. And the release that we put out says that, yes, the police cannot stop you for using that vehicle because of time. But there are certain conditions that you must meet.
So should we still hang those DV or how do you call it, the DP and DV plates on the cars and registered cars?
In the release that we issued, which I hope you would run in detail, shows that yes, it is compulsory as part the law.
It is required that we.
It is required that you fix it, not just fix it on the bonnet or at the back, but in front and at the back of the vehicle. As there's a place indicated for fixing those.
For number plates.
Just like regular number plate number, it must be fixed there, and the driver must also have a logbook, and he should produce it when the police officer in uniform requires it. And there are certain entries that certain entries that you must make in the logbook indicating where you are going, the time, and the name of the driver. Those conditions are still there.
So it doesn't mean that the police cannot stop us. They can stop and check.
They can stop. A police officer in uniform can stop a driver who is bearing a DV or DP plate driving that car and a request for the logbook. And those ones the police can check.
Oh, all right. Yeah. All right. So not all DV or DV licenses are insured. So how can this be addressed?
Those vehicles are insured, yes. You need an insurance, and there is an insurance that it is for the DV plates. It is for 1 year, renewable by the licensing authority. Yeah, so they meet all the basic requirements. In addition to that, they are also in the release that we put out. It doesn't mean that you can use them for some occasions that are not specified by the law. For example, you cannot use them for weddings, funerals, and cases that are not intended for the purpose, because the purpose of the DP or DV plates for the trade license on a vehicle is for a vehicle to be tested, or for a buyer, a prospective buyer, to test the vehicle, or where the vehicle is defective. It is meant to be tested on a road and ensure that it is correct before it is licensed. So there are conditions for using this vehicle, and in the release that we put out, those conditions are still valid and must be respected by both the police as well as the users of those.
So we notice people use some of this DP and DV license plate numbers to church on Sundays. Would you arrest them?
Of course, because you need to enter in the logbook where you are going and the purpose for which. And the purpose is for you
Can you use those cars for church? Drive them to church on Sunday?
The law does not indicate that. That's why we said it is not meant to be used for funerals, social functions, and other functions. It is only to be driven from the garage to either to be tested on the road or to another place, but not for those social functions.
All right. Yeah. So what will be the punishment if you should arrest anybody now? At least if they're using the DV or DP and maybe the dates have expired and so on.
The offenses and the penalties have been specified in the law.
Okay.
And 12 penalty units is about it's about 200 Ghana cedis. So if you multiply it by the number of penalty units, the court will decide on that. But all these things have been specified in the law. That's why we are asking both the users and then the police to be very familiar with the road traffic regulations 2180 of 2012. The provisions have been spelled out black and white. It is very useful that everybody gets him or herself very familiar with them.
Right. ACP David Okru, we are grateful for your time. Thank you very much for explaining this tricky issue to us, because the police obviously have been arresting people for using this DV and DP number plates on their vehicle. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Right. You're on News 360, and let's do some other stories. And the deputy ranking member of the Employment Committee of Parliament, Richard Kwashiga, has rebutted the Ghana Immigration Services defense for the sale of e-vouchers, describing it as extortion. His argument is based on a similar exercise 2 years ago, where the process was suspended without refunding the monies to the applicants.
About 84,000 people applied to be employed across the country into the Ghana Immigration Service, but only 500 are expected to be selected to join the service nationwide. Per calculations, the GIS has accrued 4,231,850 cedis, having priced the e-vouchers at 50 cedis each. The Ghana Immigration Service has been widely criticized by the public, but the Public Relations Office has reportedly defended their action, saying the money would go into covering the costs incurred during the recruitment process, among other things. But the MP for Keta disagrees.
how much, do they spend in the process of getting these young people recruited? Is it the case that they use these monies for allowances for those who train them? Are those people not being paid? They must give us a breakdown. And more so, when they all have budgets approved for them, for goods and services, which will include recruitment and etc. We must investigate and interrogate these matters.
The Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament's Committee on Employment, Richard Kwashiga, alleged applicants who lost their monies due to the suspension of the recruitment exercise 2 years ago never had their monies refunded.
Will it not have been fair that when they've taken the decision now to proceed with the recruitment exercise, they would have recalled these young people from whom they took 100 Ghana, who they started the process with? That has not happened. Meanwhile, they've taken fresh amounts of money, monies from young people. I think that clearly is fraudulent.
He pledged readiness to assist the applicants seek justice.
I am encouraging all young people from whom the Immigration Service collected 100 Ghana previously from to take an action and go to court. I am ready to lead that charge on their behalf.
Now, government plans to establish 5 portfolios this year to take care of its communication. Information Minister Mustafa Hamid told the media in Accra the measure has become necessary due to overwhelming demand for access to government information.
Since being sworn in, President Akufo-Addo has appointed a record 110 ministers and deputies. Apart from this, most ministers have more than one deputy. The Information Ministry has 3 deputies, making it one of the highest so far. Yet, the Sector Minister Mustafa Hamid says his ministry still needs more persons to discharge its mandate.
Not all media houses are able to reach us for information. There are 350 active radio stations in Ghana. We have 45 newspapers that are on the stands every day. There are about 16 active television stations that are working 24 hours in our country. Now, so that means that the scramble for information is bigger than the channels that are available through which people will get the information.
Mustafa Hamid, at a meeting with the media, has hinted of plans to establish 5 offices for government communication corresponding to cabinet subcommittees.
When we appoint the spokespersons, it will open more channels for you to be able to access government and access government information. So it will deepen the democratic process and improve access to information.
But would these not constitute duplication and waste of resources?
It's the government that campaign of overspending in this country. But he came into office and appoint the unprecedented number of ministers. The ministers and deputies at various offices are unprecedented. And you are appointing new other officers to be spending. Do you consider the taxpayers' money going into payment of these people?
My brother, this question is like being between a rock and a hard place, as they say. In one breath, you are complaining as media people that the channels open for receiving government information are too small. If the channels are too small, what is the solution? The solution is to open the channels. So really, you cannot make omelets without breaking eggs. I'm sorry.
You're still watching News 360 live on TV3. It's now time for Mission. Welcome back, and don't forget that Mission is supported by Star Ghana with funding from Danida, UK Aid and the European Union. Let's start off from the health sector, where health authorities at the Dafiama Busie Isa district of the Upper West region say the absence of a medical doctor remains a major problem for managing health cases. Middle-level staff who manage clients do not have the required skills, and this poses a threat to the lives of patients. Bright Nana Amfo's report.
The Regional Director of Health Services recently asked one medical officer to be taking care of the district. So the arrangement is that every week he apportions 2 of his working days to attend to the clients in the district.
But this has not helped. The doctor is unable to make the time all the time, and so the struggle continues.
Currently, you can go over a month without any medical officer attending to any single client in the district.
The work is therefore left to middle-level staff. The World Health Organization requires that every population must be served with a medical doctor. But the lives of over 37,000 residents in Dafiama Busie Issa district are in the hands of these middle-level staff. Pregnant women and children are worse off.
The supporting staff, they are doing very well, but because it's a special area, if the woman delivers and there is a problem, once they are not having that required skills, it will be difficult for them to manage. They have to refer the case to the hospital.
The burden of healthcare givers is huge. The only physician assistant who could have helped is on steady leave. The district is unable to acquire the services of a locum physician assistant.
The facilities with no medical officers are just allowed to charge something very minimal, and so their generation is not also much. So how then do we afford the services of these physician assistants who also come and they charge so much? You cannot not afford.
But the district health management team is not resting. 5 health centers and 13 CHIPS compounds are burdened.
If the government should come in or the management should come in to support us with another service personnel like 2 midwives or 3, in addition to the current one, it will make work more easier.
The health management team continues to put pressure on the district assembly to push for a doctor.
We are putting up a doctor's bungalow. We are putting up a laboratory complex. They have plans in 2018 to put up 3 wards, male, female, and kids ward, and then add up a theater.
This will attract a doctor. The assembly says its effort will improve healthcare in the district.
We need to have a medical laboratory, we need to have males ward, we need to have females ward, we need to have males, females ward, and OPD and consulting rooms. So I made my engineer to quickly put it together in a plan and do the costing. So based on that, we've started rolling out some of the projects.
An improved road network and upgrading of several health centers and CHIPS compounds will bring healthcare to the doorstep of the people of the Dafiama Busie Issa district of the Upper West region.
And still in the Upper West region, but now on education, congestion at the Funzi District Assembly Primary School in the Wa East District has compelled school authorities to teach pupils under trees. Though District Assembly authorities are strategizing at increasing school buildings, pupils are staying away from school due to the heat in classrooms. Bright Nana Amfo again reports.
So this is the Funzi DA Primary School. The school has 3 classes from KG to primary 3. They are itching to have an upper primary, but for now, the major worry is to take care of these kids behind me. Over 70 of them in this class. Congestion is a huge problem for teachers here. They are unable to teach them properly because at this level, teaching is about more of playing, but because of congestion, they simply cannot teach the way they should. Quickly ask the teacher in charge of the KG primary exactly how difficult is it for her in teaching the class. She is in charge of this particular class. How difficult is it for you to teach these kids here?
It's because of the conjunction way of the class. We want to do this in demonstration activities, you can't do it because of the way they are seated. Even when you call a child to come out, it's difficult for the child to get away to come in front of the class to demonstrate to the others to see.
And that makes teaching and learning very difficult.
Very difficult for us.
Right, so that's the challenge here. And so in this situation, what authorities here do is to take the kids out of the classroom, out there on the compound, under a tree, to enable them teach the way they want to teach these kids. So let me get here to instruct the kids to get out and see how they file out of the classroom to where they will be taught properly.
So
she just instructed them in the Sisali language that we should go out, and so you can see the kids, everyone quickly picking his or her chair and filing out of the classroom.
All of you come.
They can't learn properly in the classroom, and so this tree you see here provide that kind of comfort for these kids.
Very good, yes. What again?
Very quick. Doctor shall not die. No, my dear, do not cry.
Very good. Clap hands for Sharifa. Yes.
The Education Directorate says infrastructure for kindergarten education in the district is a difficulty.
Particularly at the KG level, I think is zero infrastructure, include like classroom situation. Most of them are in cages and open air classrooms, particularly the KG.
Efforts at correcting this is receiving attention.
The assembly, normally I send my report to them, but it looks as if they are not able to meet my demand. In some cases, possibly in a year they might put up 1 classroom or 3 classrooms. Like presently, I have brought in a very good plan to establish a JSS for girls. Right now, some NGO is trying to support, but they think that the infrastructure, classroom infrastructure should be provided, and it's a problem to me.
The District Assembly says 2018 will see improvement.
Currently, when you visit some of the schools, you realize that the numbers are always higher than what the normal classroom is supposed to contain in the school. There is every indication that such schools are supposed to be splitted so that we have A and B. So we have taken notice of such schools, and we have actually embedded that in the 2018 plan. I mean the budget said that when funds are provided, then we will add classroom blocks to such areas so that to reduce the congestion, so that it can enhance effective teaching and learning.
Plan Ghana has put up 2 KG classrooms, while other development partners are lending support to the District Assembly to improve education infrastructure. The Assembly, however, wants more support from central government. The most deprived district in the Upper West region. Now, education authorities are bent on ensuring that these kids get exactly what they need in bringing them up. Basic education is key, and the KG is important to them. All efforts are to be made if these children are to develop to the primary, the junior high school, and to the senior second cycle level. Bright Nanamfo, TV3, Funsi.
And that's how we wrap up. Don't forget that mission is supported by Star Ghana with funding from Danida, UK Aid, and the European Union. Over to you, Isa.
Let's do some more stories now. And motorists and commuters on the Klagon-Ashaiman Road have threatened to stop paying road levies if their road is not fixed. Construction of the road has been abandoned for almost 10 years. Here's a report by Frederick Clarence Williams.
Construction on the Klagon-Ashaiman Road began in 2008, but it is yet to be completed due to funding. Motorists have to meander through the crater-like pothole on a daily basis. The situation worsens anytime it rains. Motorists, especially taxi and commercial drivers plying the route daily, complain of frequent mechanical faults. However, most are left with no choice than to stagger on. A stretch that would take commuters and motorists only 2 minutes to cross now takes over 10 minutes due to the poor nature of the road. Motorists exercise extreme caution meandering the potholes to protect their vehicles. The Klagon-Ashaiman Road for many years has remained untarred and dusty, inconveniencing residents. Shoulders of the road continue to erode gradually. Residents and road users are threatening a demonstration if authorities do not fix the road.
I will not pay this road too if the authorities does not continue this particular portion. It affects me a lot. Anytime you pass here, you see your ball joints will spoil. Some part of your car will be broken down, and then you have to suffer a lot before you get a mechanic to come and repair it for you, and then you have to pay some huge amount.
Before, there's no traffic here. But because of this road, now there's a lot of traffic in the morning. And especially, we have a lot of dust. We can't sit in our office.
We have news, but right now in the world of sports, coming up with Yao Ufusulabi after the break.
Now, music, they say, is a universal language, and by extension, so is dance. And if there were ever a pair to support this saying, it would be Larissa Manaja and Saira B, two dancers who over the last 10 years have worked alongside none other than High Life legend Kojo Enchi. Venturing into the arts over 16 years ago, Saira B and Larissa Manaja hit gold when they were spotted by High Life legend Kojo Enchi about a decade ago. Having been on numerous stages with Mr. Music Man Kojo Enchi.
You obviously can't express yourself in English that fluently, yet you've been working with one of the most important music legends this country has ever produced for 10 years. How did that work?
On ne parle pas l'anglais. La simple raison que lui non plus, ça fait 10 ans qu'il travaille avec nous, il ne parle pas le français. Donc voilà, on a un interprète qui est monsieur Jo Afizier. Voilà.
I think I understand what she just said, that she's also worked with Kojo Enchi for 10 years and he also hasn't learned how to speak French.
Sometimes when they communicate, they try to blend the French and the little English. But when it comes difficult, that is where they refer to me. They have to call me. Either we do it on phone or I'm there with them.
Saira B, who also doubles as a singer, maintains the language didn't really matter so long as people understood their body movements.
Because, the dance mode is different from the one that we Ghanaian normally knows. So as soon as they are on stage, and people appreciate the way they dance. So when Kojo saw that, he said, okay, this is something that I have to use and blend with my own way of doing music. You can see that Ghanaians have accepted them.
Music may transcend barriers, but these artists have broken language barriers with nothing but their dance moves.
Ghana.
And we now have time for some entertainment news coming up next. I beg pardon, some international news which is compiled.
U.S. President Donald Trump describes himself as a very stable genius in response to the Fire and Fury author. Michael Wolff's book Fire and Fury Inside Trump White House suggests even those close to Mr. Trump have questioned his capability. The U.S. president has dismissed the book, calling Wolff a loser. The role has overshadowed a key meeting of Republicans as they try to trash out their priorities for 2018. A North Korean Olympic official has said that his country is likely to participate in the next month's Winter Olympic Games in Seoul. Pyongyang's representative to the International Olympic Committee, Shang Eun, reportedly made the comment at Beijing International Airport on Saturday. Japanese news agency Kyodo reports Shang is believed to be traveling to Switzerland to discuss the subject. It comes a day after Pyongyang agreed to official talks with South Korea. During his New Year's Day address, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said he hoped that the Pyongyang Winter Games will be a success, adding that he was considering sending a delegation.
And just before we go, the managing editor of the Al-Hajj newspaper, Alhaji Bature Idrisu, who passed away last Friday, January 5, was buried today, Saturday, January 6, in line with Islamic tradition. Alhaji Bature, who was also an outspoken political commentator and sympathizer of the opposition National Democratic Congress, according to a statement from his family, died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital where he had been receiving medical treatment. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Indeed, and that's how we wrap up News 360 here on TV3. My name is Solis Rose Corte.
And I'm Isa Moni. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. There's more updates on our website.